Howdy folks, in this video we're going to be looking at setting the type of a custom column inside of M, and we're going to do it without adding any extra steps. Okay, so setting column types is actually pretty easy. So if I head over here, go to home, and I'm going to go to edit queries, I'm going to bring up my query editor. What we'll see is the way this normally happens is you've got a table that starts like this, and you add like let's say you start here and you add a custom column, right, like this one right here, right, and then you click on the little icon there to set the type, or you head up here to transform and you click on it and you set the type there, and then it adds a step called change type. Okay, then you add another custom column, right, then you do the same thing, you click there to add the type change right there, and then you add a new custom column, and then once again you click on the button or you head up to transform to change the column type, and that works okay. The issue is that if you look here at your code, what you see is every single time you add a column, there's two applied steps. There's one for the definition of the column, then there's this extra step where you change the type. And that's, not the end of the world, but it makes it kind of hard to read. So the first thing you can do that's pretty easy that you may have run into before is you could do a variation like this, where as opposed to having setting the type after each step, what you do is you define all of your columns, and then at the very end, all at once, you set the types for this, this, and this. So you come up here, you define all your three columns, and then one by one you click on that, set the type, click on that, set the type, click on that, set the type. And what you'll end up with is one step where all your new columns are defined. And that is better than the first version for the most part. However, it's still a little clumsy in that you add this step to define the type independent of the actual definition of the column itself. Wouldn't it be nice if you could actually set the type in each one of these steps? Well, you may have guessed, based on the name of the video and where I'm going with this, that you can. So let's pop over here to this third query, calendar in step. So right now I've gone ahead and I've started here and I've defined my three custom columns, right? 1, 2, 3. And what I could do is what I did before, where I click on each one and define the steps one at a time, or I could come here at the end and define them all in one step. But if you'll notice, if I click on this step, and I'm going to sort of shrink this just a little bit, up here you'll see the formula, right, where it says table.add columns, and then it's got the name of the previous step, what the name of the column is. Right here is the definition that we enter in the gearbox, like, that right there is what I'll see if I click on the gearbox. In fact, let me just do that so you can see as indeed the case, right? So everything between the each and the closing parentheses is equal to that right there. What we can do is we can come here to the end of our formula, add a comma right before the last parentheses, and do a type and then a number, because this is a numeric data type, right? And now when I hit enter, you'll notice this goes from an ABC123 to a 1.2 because now this is typed as a number, right? And I could do the same thing for my day of week short. I could come up here and say, okay, everything between the each and the last parentheses, that's the definition of the column. But if I come right before the last parentheses, add a comma and do type text, I could set this to a text type. And boom, now it's a text type. Now I add my last column. And here it is, same kind of deal. Everything between the each and the last close parentheses is the formula. So what I'll do is I'll come to the last parentheses. Right before I'll add a comma, and I'll do a type logical, right? And just like that, I've defined the type for all three of these columns. And I don't have any extra steps dealing with it. So my code is just much easier to read. And, everything related to this column sort of shows up in this one single step, which I think is much, much cleaner. There is one gotcha here, right? If you'll notice, let's go to an easier one with a shorter formula. So here for my day of week short, here I've got the type.text. If I hit the gear icon and I just look at it and I say, that looks okay, and I hit okay, that works just fine. But watch what happens when I come up here and change the formula. So I'm going to hit the gear icon, and I'm going to change the formula from DDD to DDDD to do a day of week long. Now when I've changed the formula, I hit OK, boom, the values have changed, as you might expect, but the typing that I had in there is gone, right? So I had set it to type text, and now it's removed itself. Now that's a bit of a pain, but honestly, it's easy enough to fix. You just come back here and do, type text. type it right. And just like that, it's working again. So you have to remember to do that if you ever use the gear icon to change things. Or you could do what I do, is if you do this long enough, you often don't even use these gear icons. You just come up here to change it and say, you know what, I want to change this to, should I want to do that, DD, and I'm going to call this day of week short-ish, and I could just change my formula right there, and the typing remains, and I have no additional steps dedicated to typing these new columns that I've created. So I think that could make your code much easier to read. Okay, well, I do hope that was helpful, and I will see you next video.